Woo doggy.
What's happening?
Fucking rocking out.
I feel like I see dead people.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? We have nothing but X people. Oh, wait. They can see us on X. I forgot. Disregard. How do you like my hat, Adam?
I love it. It's very oh snap, I forgot his name. Joaquin Phoenix-ish.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah. I got a little I don't know. Thor, Love and Thunder. Maybe some Robin in tights. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a Robin Hood Thor, like a Thor hood.
Thor. There we go. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So what did I even name this thing? Oh, the Sober Heathen Paranormal Pod 2. So this was, I did kind of like a quick one before, kind of diving into my old school roots of paranormal investigating. I had the EMF meters, the night vision cameras, I was into it pretty hard there for a long time. I thought I was going to do some cool stuff, and it was cool, but alcohol took over, so then I wasn't doing shit.
All of it?
What's that?
Do you still have all the equipment?
Yeah, I think I still got everything. Yeah, I recently used the EMF meter to try to talk with Grandma, and with no success. But she was able. I had her use it one time, and she asked, just jumping right into it here. She was able to ask my grandpa if he was there, and it did go off. It was reading zeros, and after a few seconds of asking if he was there, I have the video of that somewhere on my old Facebook.
Wow.
It's on Grip Paranormal. If you look for GIRP Paranormal fan page on Facebook, it's on there somewhere.
Cool. All right.
Yes. Well, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, I'm not a mother, but happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
That's right.
Except for mine, I don't like you.
So what's
awkward?
Raven Cliffs Falls. So perfectly in line with you would have liked it, Raven and everything.
Yeah.
Beautiful hike, easy hike. It was 5 miles round trip, but it was not a strenuous up the mountain. Pretty not flat. I think in 2.5 to get there, we gained like maybe 600 feet elevation. So that's a very shallow climb.
Sure.
Beautiful waterfalls and rocks to climb on, all sorts of stuff. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mom enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. So it was fun.
Awesome. Some active activities, healthy activities with Mom. Very nice.
Yeah. It's probably been 10 or 15 years since I actually gave her a Mother's Day gift. We always just go do something. Like last year we went zip lining. Like, go do fun things.
Yeah, it's cool. I went to Grandma's gravesite today. It's not a downer thing. It is what it is. That's a part of life. Something we'll all do at some point. But went and pulled some weeds and then went to her house. Got a couple things out of there. Said hello to her. If she's around or listening anywhere in those areas.
Cool.
So good enough for me. Miley's mom came over yesterday and we did a bunch of grilling. And that's always enjoyable. So,
where do you guys grill up there, up north?
What do we grill?
Is it straight up brats? I mean, I all I see is brats.
there's a particular brat that Miley likes. I like the bacon cheddar brats and the fancy brats or whatever. But most of the time we're doing burgers or chicken or hibachi style meat. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what we do. We got a flat top or whatever, and
Yeah.
I go out there and fuck shit up quite frequently. I don't know. I was a master griller when I was drinking. You should have just asked me. I was awesome. But the potatoes are probably always crunchy. Yeah.
You're on it.
More pepper.
Yeah.
I can't taste it.
So
yeah, I wanted to have a little bit of fun. It's a cross between, paranormal and spirituality, these fun hobbies and belief systems. I think maybe, I don't know if you'd agree or not, Adam, that we almost have to have to latch on to an early sobriety at least to have something to hold on to.
Yes. What? So let's just be clear and put this out there. And here's the caveat. So AA claims to be a spiritual program and that you get in touch with a higher power. Is that pretty accurate?
Mm-hmm.
So the spirituality that I talk about and what I'm going to talk about and reference in this podcast has nothing to do with a higher power to get you sober the way AA claims to. So the spirituality I use to get sober is what I'm going to be talking about. But I just wanted, there is in my mind a distinction between a higher power that controls everything and purpose and where we come from, stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about over here.
Yeah.
I think that search for belonging and purpose is necessary for attaining and maintaining an effortless sobriety. Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know why you're here, you don't have a reason to continue to move yourself forward through life, you're going to go back to being stagnant. When you go back to being stagnant, you're not going to be happy. And when you're not happy, you're going to drink.
Yeah.
You're going to sedate all those feelings. So
I think the key word that you used that I agree with 100% is purpose.
yes.
Like there's physical purpose. Like, what am I doing physically? There's emotional, intellectual, and spiritual purpose. And I could not, for the life of me, nice Chrome. Hey, it's Tinfoil Sunday, RJ. Good to see you, buddy. He was a guy that was in, well, I won't say too much, but I met him in my recovery journey. And awesome dude. I'm glad you're here. So, yeah, I grew up in a Christian home. And then I got a little bit older and I started reading things and reading the Bible and doing other things and completely said, no bueno, no thank you. This is not for me. The things I've read just completely turned it off. No, that's not for everybody. I mean, a lot of people believe in it. But anyway, so in my last treatment, I found something that I enjoyed. So I picked the Norse belief system. So the Norse paganism belief system.
Yep.
I picked Odin. I really found a connection to Odin and what he did. This guy wanted to learn things. I like to learn things. That's why I started researching the UFO stuff and reading the Bible and reading the big book. I like kind of doing that stuff. And this dude, plucked out his eyeball and hung himself from a tree to learn the knowledge of the runes. And so I learned the runes. I know all their names. I write in Elder Futhark. Probably improperly. Let's just put that out there. I'm not trying to act like, what I mean? But I know what each letter means, equivalent to the English language. And me and my son both, we write back, and this kid learned it in days. We write text messages to each other in Futhark. My entire journal, like when I was in my last treatment, I would journal all day long about my feelings, and I'd write it in Futhark. And I could sit right next to somebody and write it, and they had no fucking clue what I'm writing. And I found a spiritual connection to the Norse paganism, mythology, if you want to call it mythology. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I found a connection there. And that's really what got me through there. And when I got out of treatment and I didn't have a driver's license and I had an ankle monitor on, I had no driver's license. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. I would be laying in bed and start to freak out. And I'd go outside in February in Michigan and I would have a bonfire and stare at the stars. And I would take a Dr. Pepper out, crack it open and leave it out there for Odin. And Do I believe that Odin was coming down having a Dr. Pepper with me? Of course not. But it was a ritual, and it made me feel better, and it made me feel connected to something, and that's what I needed.
Sure, absolutely. So in that right there, yeah, thanks, Al.
And we own it.
Yeah, we do. We're proud of it. So we kind of got on this topic of the spirituality / paranormal / mysticism. The last time we were on a couple days ago, but then that night was it that night? Yeah, that night we had the solar flares happening and all the geomagnetic storms going on. So you could apparently see the northern lights all the way down here in Georgia and almost all the way down to the Gulf. And I haven't seen them yet. Supposedly we're supposed to still be able to see them again tonight. But I did see it last night. I could go out and I looked up, towards the north, and the sky was maybe slightly pinkish, luminescent, like maybe just a little bit glowing, but nothing to write home about. But so that segues into here's an interesting topic on the spirituality and consciousness. There are a lot of beliefs and a lot of thoughts out there that solar flares are higher consciousness or conscious downloads that people who have taken a spiritual journey and are, I guess, awakened to higher or trying to raise their higher vibration. It's a conscious download that these solar flares do. And so my brain goes, okay, so if that's true, what's actually happening here? It could be completely BS. But when you think about it, all that solar flare is just a massive, like more energy than we can fathom, electromagnetic energy that hits the planet. And we are basically large electromagnetic antennas. So there could be something there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel any different, but
yeah,
I might have been blocking it.
So. Yeah, we've been wearing these hats since the last podcast, just so you know, trying to protect ourselves from the government reading our minds. We didn't want them to know that we were going to do this podcast.
If they read my mind, they might come lock me up.
No, and so we can self-fulfill things, right? So, the older versions of humans would look up and see those things and they would think, ooh, it's a sign from the gods. Or it's a good sign or whatever. Or an eclipse would be a bad sign. Or, we can make anything of it. When I started into the Norse stuff, all of a sudden I started seeing huge crows or ravens, and I would say, ooh, that's Hugin and Munin. That's, Odin's ravens coming to, check me out. And it made me feel good, dude. I mean, it did. It made me feel good. And then, as I've gotten farther through it, my skeptical side starts to come back in and take over a little bit and be like, okay, you saw the birds because you were looking for them. They've always been there, right? So I hate that part of me.
Yeah.
But yeah. I will say this, and I'll probably say this several times and before we log off tonight, is I want to believe.
So, I mean, that brings up the age-old point that it's not really seeing is believing, it's that believing is seeing. So
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, totally onto something there.
So okay. So this made me think of something, so we might as well just get right into it. So you go and you can Google any of these videos of little kids like waving to nobody in a room.
Yeah, right.
And you can see these videos, like there's one in particular, I'll try to be more prepared in the future to do these things and be able to bring these things up and show them. But there's on TikTok, this little girl and her mom is kind of over her shoulder and they're doing a little cute video or whatever. And she says, Nana says such and such. And the mom's face, like all the color left her mom's face. Like, what? Because this little girl never met this person, never would have known that. And it's like, whoa. And then there's another one of this little boy, the cutest little thing, looks like Easton with the glasses and the strap. He had those when he was younger. And he goes and he looks in this bedroom. He's like, "Hi, Papa. Hi." And his mom's like, "No fucking way. What? Who are you waving at?" And she runs over there, and there's nobody in the room, but he was definitely, "Hi.
Yeah.
How are you?" You know what I mean? So maybe we did see or could see, and then these, growing up learning that, oh, there's no monster in your closet, you're just seeing things, there's nothing there, you're just seeing things, and we can shut those receptors off in our mind. I do believe there's spiritual things. I believe there's spiritual connections, and I felt them in the groups of AA. I felt them in the groups of therapy sessions. When people are on a common mission to heal and to support one another, there is something powerful in that stuff. And I think there's probably, I want to believe there's more to it. And I think we can have those connections with people.
Well, that example right there to me is just perfect. We can't call it proof, but it is highly coincidental in what I've talked about talked about it a handful of times, in that not only do we receive, energetic frequencies, but we also transmit, we also give off an electromagnetic signature of frequency. Yeah. And so when you have a bunch of people who are working together and they are attuning to their heart, and we can go in and we can talk about the heart chakra. When they've got that thing working, and you've got 5 or 6 people in a room, or 10 or 12 people in a room, and everybody is on the same frequency, you're bound to feel that frequency. And so to me, that gets, that's almost the science of spirituality. And then, like, to me, that is like something that you can look at and go, we can observe this, we can measure this, we can record this. There's no need to have a belief in anything, because I can be analytical about it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you ask where, how, why, other than observe, then you get into the realm of, well, now we have to talk about spiritual beliefs. And so that's where a lot of people don't want to bridge those two, but you can either be just in the observing analytical camp, or you're just in the mystical camp. When you start putting those two together, I think you start seeing some really magical things happen.
Yeah, and I think it can happen in a lot of different ways. And that is awesome. Croc Cat, there is a higher power and it ain't me, right? Oh, I picked up the wrong one. This is the one I wanted to put. There's a higher power out there and it ain't me. It's an interesting take. Yeah. I mean, when we really slow down, I saw a video last night, and it was talking about, 100 years from now, we're all going to be forgotten. You know what I mean? The people that knew us are going to be buried, and we're just going to be, it sounds so sad, but if you can really harness that and realize that all you got is today, it could open doors to really changing it, or it could drive you down into a hole. I mean, I'm up and down all the fucking time. But when I heard that last night, I wanted today to be different.
To just, pound that and make it even sound more somber. Think about go up your family tree. Most people obviously know the first level up with their parents, their aunts and uncles, who's there, and their grandparents. They might know some of their great aunts and uncles. I feel pretty fortunate that I was able to know, on a pretty good basis, a lot of my great aunts and uncles. But once you get to great grandparents, like, I was fortunate that I had a great grandparent that was alive for probably, almost close to 15, 18 years of my life. But I don't know anything about her family other than just how it affects me straight down the line. So the reason I bring this up, because if you follow any type of content about business and entrepreneurship, you might have heard the name Alex Hormozy. And he talks about people who try to build a legacy. What you have to understand about Alex is that he is very nihilistic, in that he believes that nothing really matters. You're just here and then you're gone. So do what you want. And his point is, once you go 4 generations up, which is not very far in the time frame, we're talking 80 years, you're forgotten. You can't name one person. The average person has no idea who's in their family tree past great grandma. You might have a few notable, memorable people that have been passed on in the form of stories that you go, oh yeah, that's my great, 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 great aunt, whoever. But that to me hammered home the point of, wow, life is short. No one's going to remember what I do except for the people that are here with me now. So I'm going to impact those people the best I can. And that's part of why I do this. So
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, it never fails. It's like every couple of weeks or so, maybe a little more frequently now, that I'm clips 2,500 followers on here. But this you just post that for engagement. Just post that for no shit, Sherlock. It's social media. Am I posting shit for me to read later? It's to have a discussion and conversation, you dumbass. But anyway, so yeah, like if you can just really, like, death has been something that was on my mind. That last month that I had, of drinking, like I was just ready to accept it, and like it's super scary. And how, like, I'll find myself at 42, just been like, God, I'm 42. 20 years, I'll be 60. And these ridiculous fucking things. Meanwhile, tomorrow's not even here yet, and tomorrow, could be a great time with the people that I care about and enjoy being around. But something, and I'm going to switch, try to bring it up or bring up the mood here in a second. But I've over the past couple of days, it's like everybody that's come before me has died. It's just what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
everybody
does it. And we're all going to do it. There isn't one person that isn't going to do it. So to sit and to dwell on that and to worry about how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen is just a complete and total waste of energy. And that is not something that it was an epiphany thought. There ain't no fucking way that I've changed my thought process. I'm still going to worry about it. But now that I've had that thought and like that realization and acceptance, when I start to go down that valley, I can say, hold on.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So just let the little shit go as best you can and just be happy, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Everybody have a good night. We're done because So the tinfoil hats, man, we got these things on. Let's talk about some crazy shit.
Warm, by the way. Have you noticed how warm this thing is?
Oh, fuck, Dad. I said, Dad. Fuck, dude. I'm red hot. And Miley's like, you're gonna have that thing on for like 5 minutes and be sweaty, and you're gonna take it off. You know that, right? Well, I will persevere.
All right, I'm gonna try.
Whew, it is toasty. So the Vatican, dude. Did you see this? I sent it to you. Did you read a little bit about it?
Read a little bit. Yeah, you can pull it up?
Yeah. So the Vatican is to publish updated norms for investigating alleged apparitions. This is of Jesus, of angels, and demons. They're updating the norms for investigating them. So you don't investigate something unless you believe it to be true, which I'm shocker. The Vatican believes in angels and sightings of Jesus and those types of things.
Right.
But to see this come out, I always wonder, the Vatican's a very powerful thing, right? Very powerful. Is it a preparation thing? Are we going to start seeing some crazy shit? Is there going to be more Jesus on toast? Is there going to be, you know what I mean? Like, is that what they're doing? Uh-oh, I lost you.
There we go.
There we go.
But if you touch my microphone, it mutes itself. I think you just have to think about it and get close, and it'll mute itself. I was gonna say, I forgot about the Jesus on toast. Didn't that thing sell for like 30 grand on eBay or something?
Probably.
Yeah, or maybe it was there was a Mother Teresa or Virgin Mary or something. But yeah,
there's all kinds of things. So and a lot of people don't know that the Vatican has one of the largest observatories.
Yeah.
And so that begs the question, what are they looking for? Well, I guess you could easily say, well, they're looking for heaven and angels flying around in the universe. I feel like they're looking for more than that. You were talking a little bit about that, weren't you, before we went on?
Yeah. So it was about 10 or 12 years ago, the Vatican released updated, not doctrine, but they changed their stance officially on extraterrestrials, UFOs, and aliens. they kept it very kind of hush hush. You know, it was like a slid it under the radar. But if you ask a member of the clergy now, the kind of the blanket response is to, of course, we're going to welcome our extraterrestrial brethren when they come in Jesus' name. Whereas before, admitting that there were other life forms other than humans, the ones that the Roman Catholic Church says God created, was blasphemy. I don't know if it was straight up like definition of blasphemy, but it was frowned upon. So it's like a 180-degree flip-flop there. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, they have their own. I mean, they have their own counter intelligence as far as UFOs and spiritual phenomena go. So some stuff they cover up as tightly as they can. Some stuff they spin it as best they can. But yeah.
It immediately brings a bunch of questions to my head. Like, do the aliens have original sin? Do they have commandments? Did they, have somebody sacrifice to save them from their choices and all these things? You know what I mean? That was just an earthly thing, or was that a universal thing? Just immediately my mind goes to all these questions. But yeah, so it's just, to me, it's really weird. And they use the word apparitions, which I think is really weird.
As soon as they say apparitions, you know what I think of, and I can't help but do it. It's like I hear Ghostbusters. I hear Ray say, 10 people witnessed a full floating, full torso vapor apparition. I'm like, apparition. I thought, if it's Jesus and he's sitting there looking at me, I'm not gonna be like, I saw an apparition. I'm gonna be like, dude, I saw Jesus over there. So
yeah, it makes me think of Ghost Hunters. It makes me think of Ghost Adventures. That Zach Bagans guy, you know what I mean? Like, it makes me think of, bro. Is there something? If there was something that created us, if there was something that created us, something created them too. I mean, when does it stop? Right?
My argument to a lot of I shouldn't say I get into a lot of arguments, but my argument would be that if God, we'll say the Roman Catholic version of God, but whoever is infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing, the creator, not a creator, but the creator, it is so just egotistical of us to assume that he only created us.
Mm-hmm.
And so then if we do find evidence of other life, why would we not immediately assume that God created them too? So yeah, I mean, that to me, that is the whole crux of the story.
Well, the problem would be that the solar system and the Earth is only like 6,000 years old, according to the biblical text. And these alien brethren that might come visit, their history would probably suggest that they've been around for much, 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 much longer than that.
Yes.
So that would be, I mean, we have trees that are almost as old as that.
Yes.
On the planet. So anyway, man, I don't want to say negative things, but I'm going to put it out there. Fuck it. I'm going to put it out there because this is my fucking podcast. I'm going to do what I want.
Life's too short.
So I have real issues. And this is part of the reason why I started moving away from the Christian faith, right? Because the way it was presented to me, it was that God is all knowing, all powerful, and all good. And when I hear that, I struggle with that tremendously. And then we'll move on to other paranormal things. I'm going to explain why. Okay. So I'm going to use, I don't want to use somebody else's example. I'll use my personal story as an example. Okay. So I don't remember any kind of being molested or anything like that, but the evidence strongly suggests that it happened. And from other people in my family, it's agreed upon that it did happen. So if God is all knowing, all good, and all powerful, he's all knowing, he knew it happened. He's all powerful, he could stop it. He's all good. Wait a minute. Now we run into something here. because I wouldn't let that happen to a kid, right? So when I have these kind of discussions, I'll tell people, like, I'll give you 2 out of 3, and you can pick the 2 out of 3 that you want, and then we can have an honest discussion, because he can't be all good, all powerful and all knowing when children are getting molested, beaten, left in a closet to die, and that's somebody's story that it's not mine to tell. But I heard that in treatment. That wouldn't happen if it was all good. And then the first thing people are going to say, well, it's free will. Okay. But if you could stop a rape from happening, you would do it. That's the bottom line. That tells you everything you need to know right there. Right. So he might know it's happening, but he might not be powerful to stop it. He might be powerful enough to stop it. He might be all good, but he doesn't know what's happening because he's not all knowing. So all those things are open to discussion. I just had to put it out there because, goddamn, it's been eating at me. I know when, like, people listen to the podcast and it's recovery, and God in the Christian belief system is so important to people. And I'm so glad that whoever uses it to get sober and it's their strength, I'm so glad they have it.
Yeah.
I don't say these things to be derogatory toward it. I love discussing it because, again, I said I was going to say it a million times. I want to believe.
Yeah.
I want to believe. I want to believe that, that God fucked up and he either sent himself or his son to forgive us for everything, and we have a chance to see everybody in heaven forever. That sounds nice. I want to believe that. I just can't yet. So,
yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna table that one for a little while.
Fair enough. Let's go on to the next slide then, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, who has heard of the Battle of L.A.? It's a movie, actually.
I heard the movie.
Yeah, but this one happened a little bit before the movie came out, back in the 40s. What is interesting is the United States, less than 3 months after the United States entered World War II as a result of attack of Pearl Harbor, the Imperial Japanese Navy, and the day after the Japanese attack in Elwood on February 23, 1942. So there was an air raid on February 24th and 25 over this base. Now, if you read, let's not get ahead of ourselves. If you look at this, likely caused by a weather balloon. Okay, so they thought it was a weather balloon, a good old fucking weather balloon, flew over this Air Force base. And these people had such little knowledge that they didn't know it was, and again, I get they're playing on the fact that everybody was on heightened alert. They unloaded 1,400 rounds on this weather balloon. 1,400 rounds. I can't say that I have any knowledge of how many rounds of anti-aircraft it would take to take down a weather balloon, but 1,400 rounds seems more than sufficient. And I've never seen anything where they found the wreckage of the weather balloon. In fact, some of the stories that I've read outside of this article that I'm presenting on the screen here, whatever the object was, it remained there. And this is kind of, I don't know if this is a picture or a rendition of the picture that was taken, but shit's bouncing off it. You can see the shrapnel or whatever.
I see a triangle.
Yeah. I see like the top of a flying saucer because it's kind of oval. You know what I mean? And it's kind of lit up.
Yeah, but look just above that light, and you see a straight line. If you follow that, so you got the two lights that are kind of above each other, like stoplight fashion. Just above that top one, there's a straight line that runs off to like 2 o'clock. Follow that, and it gets darker, and then you see a 90-degree angle. You see that?
I do see that. Wow. Well, isn't that about a bitch that you just noticed that? I do see that in there. So if that's not crazy enough, let's move into the Phoenix Lights quickly because we're talking about triangle. This thing, I don't know if you remember this, Adam, back in 1997, they actually used the footage in the movie Signs. And the governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington, in order to keep people from panicking, he had a press conference, and you can Google this, it's hilarious. He brought out one of his aides in an alien mask and an outfit in handcuffs, and he's like, don't want anybody to worry. We found the culprit. And he brings out this alien, and a guy in an alien costume, right?
Yeah.
But these Phoenix lights were seen by many people, and you can go back and you can look up the videos, and these people are talking about how they're seeing this triangular shaped craft fly over them, and one end of it is above them and the other one's like blocks over. Didn't make a sound. Fife Symington later on, after he was no longer government, came out and said that he witnessed fly over his ranch, and he watched it go over the mountaintops behind his house. It's pretty incredible that he's saying this stuff. And again, there was no noise. So the military explanation was that they shot flares up into the sky, which a couple of things are just odd to me. And again, I'm not a super smart dude. I don't know that they shoot a lot of flares over a heavy populated area like a big city like Phoenix, Arizona. And I don't know how well flares stay in uniform. If they're shot up in the air and they hover in one place. I'm assuming they got like little parachutes or something, so it slows their descent. But I don't really know how they stay uniform like that. And if you look at the videos that are out there, and there's plenty of them, it doesn't look like flickering lights. They just look like solid lights, like a flare kind of flickers or whatever.
So this is a 97?
Yeah. Yep. If you just Google the Phoenix lights, you'll find all kinds of videos on it.
I have to ask I got an uncle that lives in Phoenix. Ask him about it. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I've never witnessed anything remotely UFO-ish. I wish I had. I would love to.
Right. I checked it. Well, I got more stories, personal experience, but I wanted to address this real quick. Crockhead says, last I checked, about 33% of the world is Christian, so it doesn't seem fair to me that those who never had a chance to know Jesus works just end up not saved. So there's a funny meme or quote out there. It might have been a real quote, but it's basically of this Christian who goes somewhere and tells this person about Christ. And I'm paraphrasing it. I'm going to butcher it, but I'll do the best that I can.
I do that a lot.
Yeah, and the guy's like, so now that I know, I have to act a certain way in order to be saved. And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, and if I didn't know, I would have been saved automatically. And the guy's like, yeah. Well, what the fuck did you tell me for? The guy's like, if I could just go to heaven without having to do anything because I didn't know, and now you told me, and now I know, what the hell are you doing to me?
Yeah. So down here in the Bible Belt, do you know what question you don't ask at Sunday school when you're 8 or 9 years old?
No.
That one.
That one?
Yeah. You're like, I have a question. Which question? It's like, so what happened to all the people before Jesus? Did they just go to hell?
Yeah. They wait there and they until Judgment Day. So they're just kind of in the abyss. Well, funny story. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't that interesting how the Roman Catholic Church invented purgatory to handle that question?
Yeah, that's pretty nice, too. So something else, and you can Google it yourself, and everybody hears this and they want to prove me wrong, please do, because I love to learn and I love to know when I'm wrong, okay? So it is interesting to me that there was a place outside of Jerusalem called Gehenna. And what they had in Gehenna, there were trenches, and they dig these trenches, and these fires burned all the time.
Yep.
And they burned their trash, and they burned dead bodies of criminals who nobody would claim. And do you know how those fires are kept going, Adam? Go ahead and tell us. What was used to keep those fires burning? Do you know?
Sulfur?
Sulfur! Sulfur was used to keep these fires going forever, to keep the burning of the trash and the dead bodies that nobody would claim. So I'm not saying anything, but one could hypothesize that the threat of being thrown into the eternal fires and the smell of sulfur might have come from somewhere. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't hear. Okay, so I'm going to go one step further and really lose all my audience. I don't see how somebody who could be like a mass murderer or rapist or a child rapist or anything could just be given a free pass by accepting Christ into his heart on his deathbed. And somebody who, like me, just wants to know, but I just don't believe. I'm not convinced. That's the definition of atheism. I'm not convinced that God exists. I'm going to burn in hell for all eternity. Now, this isn't just for like a 10-year sentence. This is, you're here for like a blip compared to forever. I don't know. Even the people that are raping people and killing people forever. Anyway, now that I've opened this can of worms, we'll see how things go and what the responses are.
Yep.
But yeah, look into the Gehenna thing, and if anybody finds anything where I'm wrong, please do. These are just things that I've researched, and I might have gotten on a shitty trail. I am open to discussion, and I'm open to learn. I absolutely am.
Yes, I'm with you on that same one. I'm listening to, I would say reading, but I'm listening to it on Audible. I find it a phenomenal book. This great author, his name is Ted Decker. And he writes, at least the series that I do right now, it is thriller, suspense, and maybe not suspense, but thriller, action-ish novels, but they're based on the New Testament in a way. So this one I just finished was called Beyond. It's called The 49th Mystic. And then the next one is I can't remember anyway, it's the Beyond the Circle series. And he takes all these principles and he takes the parts where Jesus says stuff in the Bible, like, you know, what has the exact phrase is, don't your own books say that you're not gods? Or wow, what's that quote? What's the verse? There's a quote in the Bible, a verse in the Bible where, you know, it says, you know, everybody's a god. You're just like me. The works that I do, you can do even more. All you have to do is believe like I do. So it's very interesting, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of different interpretations of what Jesus has thought to have said in the Bible. So the basically misinterpretations of how it got used in the sense of like the church to, in my opinion, control the masses, as to what he was actually saying of how to free yourself, and that heaven is already here. It's not a place you're going to go once you die. It's something for you to experience while you're alive through your own actions. It's very, very thought-provoking. So if you like this kind of content where we're kind of not really debunking, but pushing back against mainstream thoughts and some of this stuff, very, very great series.
Yeah, and this is not an attempt to do any of that. It's not an attempt to persuade you to think like I think. No, this is just a discussion. I know, and like I said, this was a very important part and something I struggled with tremendously in my early recovery. It was like, you know, I was told, well, you got to have God. You if you can't find God, then you're not going to make it. You know, and then I read the big book and God. And then you hear the 12 steps, God. And you hear all these things. And I know that Bill talks about it in the big book where, you know, we're just going to use the word God, but it can be anything. And they list off, I think there's 31 different names that they list off when it's talking about higher powers. And he said, just to be simple, we're just going to say God and God of your understanding. So, but that's, you know, I was told by many people in the rooms of AA that if I didn't find God, Jesus, I'm in big trouble and I was never going to make it. And I struggled early on because of that.
Well, so let's take I'm going to turn this a little bit more towards the paranormal history of the Earth. So we started off talking about this need, kind of this, why we need to have a spiritual path, a spiritual process for recovery from addiction, right? There is a chain of thought out there, a theory. If you were to take and look at the Sumerian stories, specifically around the Anunnaki and all that fun stuff, that being, we talked in the last one about, you know, the second gene being fused together, and it's what's allowed us to have speech patterns and all that stuff. So there is a theory out there that this innate human desire to worship and believe in a God in general is something that was programmed into our DNA hundreds of thousands of years ago. Now, again, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm not saying that's truth. I'm just saying that there's evidence of when we map the genome, we can kind of trace it to specific genes that they've been played around with.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something. There's something to that. If you look at the Anunnaki thing, and they needed workers and they used part of their DNA. Enki and his sister, I think is, oh shit, I can't remember her name, but they were kind of going behind Enlil, Enki's older brother's back, and kind of doing these things, and then it worked. And what's interesting about that is when you read these Sumerian texts, well, I'm not reading them, when you have other people translate them, and there's enough people translating them saying the same thing, that I can take it with some seriousness. They didn't get it right on the first time. The legs wouldn't work. They couldn't talk. There were a bunch of things wrong with them. And then, so finally they got it right. And then, then you go through the story, and so what I think was interesting is when they were here, let's just play for make believe for a second. This just seems more plausible to me. Okay. They needed some things from here. Gold isn't really, why is that so special? You know what I mean? It's like, it's squishy. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's squishy. And I feel maybe it's because those guys came here and they needed it and it was super valuable. So we're like, ooh, this is super valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what we use it on? Space shuttles.
Exactly.
Space shuttles to re-enter the atmosphere.
Why? Here's exactly why gold is so valuable, because it is one of the best conductors of electricity.
Weird, huh?
Best.
So let's just, I'm going to give the best summary of the Anunnaki and the Sumerian tablets that I can. Okay. And this is through, most of my research has been through Zecharia Sitchin. Okay. So they came down here, they needed gold, and they needed it for their planet. They got sick and tired here of doing the manual labor themselves. So they took the primate that was here and they genetically enhanced it with their DNA. Yep. In return for the labor, they taught us agriculture. They taught us language. They taught us how to govern ourselves. They taught us all these things. And that was the trade-off. There's stories, even in the Sumerian tablets, according to Sitchin, where some of the gods thought, God damn, the women are pretty good looking. let's mate with them. And so that's where the Nephilim and the hybrids and all these things that you hear about came into being. Yeah. Well, the gods were aging much. I said the gods. The Anunnaki were aging much quicker on this planet than their parents on their home planet. And so they were dying off, and then some of them wanted to go home. And anyway, there's more to that story where they figured out, they're like, oh yeah, we solved this problem. You can just come on home. So when the Anunnaki left, I can just see it, right? I can see that you have this city over here, you have this city over here, you have this city over here. And normally they would go to their leaders, their Anunnaki leaders, and say, what do we do? Well, now who do they go to? So now we start creating, in my mind, they just sent me a message and they said, go attack these guys over here because they did this. Yeah. And I'm Only Human said earlier, the human instinct to kill. Well, we are, because we have the animal instinct, right? And so we want control and power. That's where we're fucked up. We care about that stuff. And so to me, that makes sense. That's how other religions were formed. That's how differing nations were formed. And to me, there's my super tinfoily hat thing. And I say that, but to me, in my view, it makes much more sense, because when you go back, the oldest tablets, the oldest writing that we know of on this planet are the Sumerian texts. And when they're talking about these Anunnaki who from heaven came to earth, that's what that means. When they're talking about them in such a way, like they were right here with us and they were documenting what people have to understand too, back then, not everybody could read and write. So you didn't write down anything. You weren't telling the story of Cinderella just for fun.
It's not like you were picking up a piece of parchment and a quill either.
Right.
I mean, this stuff is getting hand chiseled into clay tablets.
Yes. Untouched since its creation. So then you got to go in and then you got to look about all the books of the Bible that were removed. Then you have to look into the Bible and you have to realize that, hey, We don't know who wrote. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John aren't real people. Those are just names given to those books. And to the best that we can guess, some of those are written 40 years after Christ was crucified.
Yeah.
So to say that, and again, even back that far, not everybody could read and write. So my point is not to debunk it. My point is it could be easily manipulated because not everybody could read and write. That wasn't a skill for everybody.
Exactly. And we've talked about it, we've made this point numerous times, is that as soon as we as humans start to interpret anything that is going to be used for any type of teaching, as soon as we interpret it, we put our own spin onto it, whether we mean to or not. We've talked about it with AA in the Big Book, and I think the exact same thing applies to almost any religion where someone is teaching a way to live, and then other people then decide, hey, that's great, we're going to implement those teachings. Well, as soon as you do that, the people doing the implementing are now the source of control. And, if you look back at the history and take it as far back as Constantinople and Council of Nicaea, Constantine's like, nope, I'm a pagan. Okay, well, these Christians are getting a little ruly. Tell you what, I'll be a Christian. Cool. I'm a Christian now. Hey, we'll start a church here. Tell you what, you guys go ahead and send all those tithes and those over here to me. And so, hence the Roman Catholic Church. And it's funny, I didn't realize this, but a lot of people don't realize that Roman Catholic Church means that it is part of Rome. Did you know that? Not everybody understands. I just assumed everybody knew that. So if you look at the history of Rome, why does a city need its own church? Formerly the most powerful empire in the world. I don't know, to control people, maybe.
Seems legit to me. I mean, no matter what side of the political aisle that you're on, you can find something that you will point to our government doing to control the other. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. You can find something. Right. And fear is the best way to do that. So when the church tells you that you're going to burn for all eternity if you don't listen to what they say or give them X amount of money, and you don't know any better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a parallel here, and it might piss a shit ton of people off, but it's something I've thought for a long time. If there is one sole person who speaks to God, and that person in turn delivers the message to a handful of people, those handful of people will carry it out to the masses. By the time it gets down to the masses don't really understand what the one person has said, right? Telephone. So, yeah, it's a telephone game. All right. So if there's only one way that you're going to heaven, and it's through this one method via this one person, and then all of a sudden I'm being told there's only one way that I can get sober, and it's via this one method, and that all other methods are wrong, I can't help but draw that parallel. Now, I don't think there's any nefarious plot or anything out there of AA saying, hey, I'm going to control the sobriety movement. But what I see is the exact same psychology of how humans take information and distribute it. This is the way, anything else is wrong. This is the way, anything else is wrong. The people that think outside of those boxes are all told they're wrong, they're going to hell, you're not ever going to be sober, you're a heretic, you're going to relapse. It's just how we think.
And look how powerful it is, because just like Crockett said, only about 33% of the world is Christian. The success rate from the best studies that we can find with AA is somewhere between 3 and 8%, 5 and 8%, is it? I think it's 5 and 8%. It's under 10%. Okay, and that's not a dog on it. That's what the best studies are showing. I love AA, and I keep saying it, but people are just like, oh, you hate it because you say negative things. No, I'm just trying to be realistic about it. It's weird that the percentages are so low of both of these things, yet they have so much influence.
Right.
Like if you go back and you read the Sober Truth, and what was the other one that we read? The U.S. of AA. If you go back and you look how AA got started and how it got all its funding and it got its foot in the door in the government, it's quite crazy.
Yes.
And so it was kind of hijacked. This good program, was kind of politicized, and then it got its foot in the door, and that's why it's everywhere. And that's why most treatment centers can't get funding without saying, "Oh yeah, we're a 12-step program because that's the right one," even though it only works 5 to 8% of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I guess I'm a skeptic.
Yeah,
maybe that's why I'm on to AA. So.
Yeah, well, and I am too, and I don't know, man. We put the tinfoil hats on as kind of a fun thing, and we kind of hovered on some things. If anybody's listening, you got a fun story to tell. Even if you don't have time now, tag us in a post on X or Facebook or wherever you're listening. Love to hear your story. So you said you've never seen a UFO or anything like that, Adam?
Not that I can think of. No, I don't think so.
So I'm going to tell you something.
All right.
I'm going to tell you that I believe in my mid-20s that I was this close to being what's the guy's name? Travis Walton. I was this close to being an alien abductee or a person that gets in contact with aliens. I do believe that.
Really?
Yes, I do. And let me tell you why. Because I was doing all this research and I was so open to it, and I would have bonfires and I look up to the stars and I talk to the stars, and I'm like, I'm open to meeting them. I want to meet them. I want to meet them. If they're there, I want to meet them. I want to meet them. So I think, and so these are some probably just dreams. They were probably just dreams, but I'll tell you about it real quick. So one dream that I had, very vivid. I woke up in this white room and there were 3 flat tables in front of me. To my left were 2 other dudes that I have no idea who they were. And the one dude looked over to me and he says, "If you lay down and close your eyes, they'll come." And him and this other dude walked right over the table, laid down and closed their eyes. Like, oh, okay. So I walked over the table, I laid down on the table and I closed my eyes.
Yeah.
Within seconds, I felt the presence in the room. I felt like somebody just walked in the room and I couldn't open my eyes. And I freaked out. And I said, I don't want to. And I woke up in my bed. Fuck, So I was pretty pissed off because I freaked out. A short time later, I wake up and I'm in this field surrounded by fog. And I look down, and as far as I could see, just a few feet in any direction, they were these concrete cylinder. I don't know what they were. They're about 2 or 3 inches thick, and they were probably 8 inches wide, and they were evenly spaced as far as I could see through the fog. And I remember standing there, and it's like, what the hell? And I yelled, and nothing came out of my mouth, but I heard my voice way from the distance echoing. And again, I felt somebody come up behind me, and I closed my eyes. I don't want to. Woke up in my bed.
Oh, man.
So this is the crazy part, okay? So this is back in MySpace times.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in this chair. It was like a dentist chair. And I remember I was staring forward, and there was somebody standing off to the side right here. And they were doing something with my ear, and it made like a zipping sound. It was like zip, zip, and I could feel like a little brush of air around my ears. And he did it on each side. Then he took my hand, and in the palm of my hand, he took this like hooked thing, and you can't see it because my camera's all fucked up, but it's like a little hooked thing, like bigger than what they'd scrape your teeth with.
Okay.
And it was like, took like a skin sample from the palm of my hand in between each finger and the tip of each finger. And when he got to my left hand, after he did the right hand, he got over to my left hand, I was staring forward up at the sky just like this. And then I looked over, and then I don't remember its face, but the reaction was like, hey, I was wondering how long you could make it. Got out of the chair. I started to run. I felt the hand on the back of my head, and I felt like I was being pushed down and pulled up at the same time. Next thing I know, I'm back in the chair, and then I'm out and I wake up in my bed. So, yeah. So, okay. Crazy story, right? So on MySpace, I was following this guy who was doing videos with his face blurred out, and he's telling all these stories. And I remember I was kind of being a dick. I'm like, this makes no sense. You're not providing any evidence. These are just stories. Until I'm watching one of his videos, and he's talking about how the ETs used this hook type device where they took samples of his skin from his palm, in between his fingers, and on his fingertips.
No, yeah.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Huh?
And so, man, I chickened out. And I don't know. All these things could be coincidental. They just could be dreams, but they're so vivid, and these dreams have stuck with me. And the only other thing that I had with an encounter with a being was waking up on my back. I'm a stomach sleeper, always have been. Woke up on my back, and this is something that a lot of people have seen, a shadow figure. He had glowing yellow eyes, and he was standing at the foot of the bed. And this is the one time that was different. And I was standing at the foot of my bed, and I'm looking at it, and I remember I was like, whoa. And like it was like turning to leave and walk out the door for some reason. That's why I think it's a dream. But it started leaving. I was like, no, like I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Everything was completely numb. And all I could do was blink. And I was like, no, don't leave. Don't leave. And I'm like, what can I do? So I remember I closed my eyes and I started breathing fast, as hard and fast as I could. I was like, and I opened my eyes and it stopped. It stopped in the doorway and it's looking back at me. And I'm like, yes, it stopped. Like, and then I closed my eyes again. I'm like, come on, wake up. And I opened it up, and my door, which is always closed, it was open about 6 inches. My dog wasn't barking at anything. And the needles were running from my neck all the way down my hands, arms, and legs. Like I was asleep. And then I passed out and woke up I don't know how much longer later. Awesome stuff, dude. Right? And that time I wasn't afraid. And like, I just remember so bad not wanting this, whatever it was, to not leave. And those are just weird things to dream about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
well, didn't you tell me and Lindsay one time that you found out recently that your grandma was seeing aliens? Like,
oh God, what a great story, dude. What a fucking great story. Yeah. So my grandmother, a hardcore Christian, believes God and only God, and that's it. All this other stuff is just silly. And I remember I called her on the way home from work one night. And she was telling me, she's like, Scotty, I got to tell you, I saw 2 angels in my bedroom last night. And I was like, whoa, really? Because she had told me before, like she had seen balls of light travel from from her room down the hallway to my old bedroom. And she took that as a sign as I was okay. And in the last few years of her life, she would see shadow people walking around in her living room. But anyway, so in this particular case, she saw 2 angels. And I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. What do they look like? She's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, just describe them the best you can. She's like, well, they weren't very tall. I was like, okay. And I'm like, did they have wings? Did they have hair? She's like, no, no hair, no wings. They had big black eyes. And I was like, what? And I'm like, what did they do? And she's like, well, I kind of reached out to them, and they kind of, they just pulled the blanket over my head and I went to sleep. And I was like, so they were what? How tall were they? Like 3-4 feet? Well, yeah, probably. They weren't very tall, and they had big black eyes. Yep. Those are angels? Well, yeah. I'm like, I remember driving down the road, and like I took my hands on the road, like, oh, you just seen 2 gray aliens. It's like, what? Aliens? What are you talking about? Like, I don't even think she knew what gray aliens were.
Right. I was gonna say, yeah. Right there.
My grandma saw him and his friend. And the story is compelling because of who she was. She wasn't one to make up stories. She was just telling me what she saw. And that to me is more credible than anything that I ever witnessed.
Yeah, I agree.
And I tell you what, coming back sober and living there and knowing that she saw these things, it was interesting to fall asleep at times at night. But,
so have you seen this book called UFO of God?
Oh, it sounds familiar. I haven't read it.
I'll have to send this link to you as well. You'll love this. It really has nothing to do with spirituality or God. It's about God, you'll know his name as soon as I say it. Hold on, I gotta tell you who it is now. I read it, and I actually know kind of some of the areas. They're making a movie out of it too, or they were supposed to. Chris Bledsoe.
Okay.
Recognize that name?
Yep.
Um,
Yep. There. Okay. I remember the book cover now.
yeah, phenomenal. You'll love it. You'll love it. I think where I was going with that. Anyway, he talks about he calls it UFO of God because his experiences with aliens and UFOs and extraterrestrials and all the phenomena kind of changed his spiritual beliefs for the good. Let's read the book, but I think all this stuff that we talk about, all aliens, spirituality, Christianity, all our attempts as very limited with our very limited understanding of how the world works. It's all our attempt to grasp something that is so far beyond our comprehension that we have to make up things in order to understand.
Yes.
So that's, to me, that is like the best way that I can wrap my head around it, is to know that we are so minute in the grand scheme of things that we're basically just, it's kind of like Plato's allegory of the cave, where we see shadows on the wall and we think it's a massive battle happening behind us, so we're afraid to go out of the cave. It's it's our attempt to understand. So
yeah.
But that's what it is.
Well, and but I think this this purpose that we talked about in the beginning, there needs to be a purpose because of the pies. The physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual side of us. There needs to be purpose for all of those.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think my definition of spirituality is understanding, like, it's my search for an understanding of where I am and who I am and how I can better affect those I love.
Yes.
Spirituality. And I'm finally understanding that love transcends the entire planet. It's not just the people that are important to me personally, it's everybody.
Yes. Keep going, Adam. I'm adding something.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to think of something to keep us going on.
Here, well, I'm going to add this real quick.
I'm interested to see what you guys pulled up here.
Oh, it didn't save it. I don't know how to make it save it. Son of a bitch. Well, anyway, there's an interesting picture that I can't bring up apparently because it didn't save to my slideshow. But there is a painting, and I'm trying to find the age of this painting. So it's a crucifixion of Christ from 1350. And in the background, for whatever reason, if you find the crucifixion of Christ painting painted in 1350, in the upper left hand, there's a guy inside of a fireball. It looks like a fireball. And on the right hand side, there's a silver craft with kind of three spines coming off and a weird logo on it.
Yep.
It's just kind of interesting that's in there. There's also a UFO battle in Germany. I'm going to bring that up real quick. Just something for people to. So in 1561, there was a celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. A mass sighting of celestial phenomenon or unidentified flying objects occurred in 1561. There's a newspaper type article on this thing, and it shows a bunch of spheres and crashed things, and they have the sun. And apparently these aircraft back in 1561 had a big battle over top of the city in Germany, and I thought it was pretty interesting.
Huh. Well, so, the ancient alien theory there, if you go and you read a lot of the Vedic texts, Hindu texts, Bhagavad Gita, it describes in detail these massive sky battles. And if you look at a lot of the architecture is based off their interpretation of what they see. And if you kind of get a little bit of a, I don't know, if you use a little bit of imagination, a lot of the architecture resembles a spaceship. There are carvings of what looks to me like men in spacesuits in pyramids in South America. I mean, where did that come from? You know?
And they're positioned in a way with things that appear to be going in their mouth. They're holding onto gear systems. It is very, very interesting, some of this knowledge that has been lost or forgotten or intentionally left behind.
Yeah, I mentioned last time the book, I think Echoes of Eden, Paul Wallace, his first book. He takes a basically a reinterpretation of a lot of the Christian stories as those with a very limited understanding trying their best, just like we said a second ago, of explaining what they saw. So when the Bible talks about the Ruach, the breath of God coming through and creating land, he's saying, how do we not know that that was some massive technology that was rescuing the planet from a cataclysmic event? That's where you can go down the rabbit hole, the Younger Dryas. But he takes the entire creation story, which if you read the Old Testament, the entire creation story of the world is actually told 3 separate times. And it's like, wait, how many times was the earth created? And it's not a retelling. It's not saying, hey, by the way, this is what we said back in Genesis at the beginning of the book. This is on down the line. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
It's very interesting. And then, so we're not keeping everybody forever, but I could talk about this all night.
Me too.
I will say Cain killed Abel, and Cain was kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and he was going to have God's mark put on him, the mark of Cain. And God put this mark on them because Cain was worried that the other people outside of the garden would kill him.
Yeah. Who are the other people?
Who were they?
Where do they come from? That's right. Yeah. I will protect you. You're one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the theories there is that Eden was actually almost like a research laboratory, a research garden. And that's where Adam, who was not able to reproduce because he was genetically made, Aunt Caitlin, little sister, actually took his sperm, inseminated one of the female's eggs, and she carried it to term.
Yes.
Where we get, our gestational cycle, all of our fun stuff. And so Adam then also got kicked out. But yes, when Cain killed Abel, Cain was kicked out, and there's like, but the others will kill me. Who are the others? It's all the people that they hadn't really genetically modified. It's all the other apes.
Perhaps there is something afoot that brought us together, my friend, and our like-mindedness to spread the message of recovery and tinfoil Sundays.
I'm telling you, there are no coincidences.
It makes so much more sense to me to look at it that way. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm only human.
The great thing about that, though, is none of that story, unless you are like hardcore devout, not willing to look at any other evidence, nothing about that story replaces the fact that there is a universal, supreme, all-powerful creator.
Right.
Nothing about that creation story says that God does not exist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a different way. And the Anunnaki had their belief system too. They came from somewhere as well. So, I mean, it's interesting reads, to say the least.
Said Orion's belt.
Yeah, well, Orion's belt was on the cat's neck. Remember, Men in Black?
That's right. Yeah. They say the Pleiades.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of where they think they've come from. But.
Yeah, the Pleiadians. So that's another language that's fun. Pleiadian language. I can show you how to write in that too, if it's real. But it's just something that was going around. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy. But it's interesting, there's all these things out there. And right now I'm working on Enochian. I'm going to be learning how to write in Enochian. I already started the study. Yep. So it's going to be, what's that?
I was making a joke. Nokia.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Enoch, the book of Enoch is something too. If you haven't read or did any research on Enoch. Yeah. Yep. I read through that and that was very interesting. Why that was pulled. He talks about going up in like a whirlwind up into the sky.
Story is just like,
yeah, seeing the earth from the heavens. It's quite interesting.
You've got to read or listen to Paul Wallace's Eden series books, man.
I might start tonight.
Yeah, that I wish he would put the rest on Audible because I would devour it in a heartbeat. But the first one's on Audible, the rest you have to read. So far,
I like Audible because I retain more quicker, but I like the hardcover because I can highlight and tab the shit out of it, and I can reference it quick.
Exactly. Yeah, I like it for driving.
Yeah, and a Ouija board. Yeah, I've used it once. It gave me the last 4 digits of a phone number to a girl I liked in high school. So that's my experience with a Ouija board. Well,
50 people have hung in on this conversation.
I cannot believe it either. I cannot believe 50 people are hanging in listening to this. So again, find us. We got X, we have Facebook, we have YouTube. Let us know your stories or let us know where you think we're full of crap, because that's okay too. This is for discussion. I know people have a hard time believing that. And why would you post stuff just for engagement? It's for the fucking discussion. So we can all learn something and maybe, look, I love talking recovery, but as Adam and I both have talked about a lot, we want freedom from it. So to do other things outside of recovery is healthy, because it gets redundant and it gets harder if that's all you're focused on every single day.
Yeah.
That's how
one thing I think you get asked a lot, I see it all the time. People don't really ask me, but I give my opinion anyway. It's like, what do I do? Yeah. What else is there to do? I'm like, what interested you as a kid? What interested you before you became a drunk? What did you used to like? What interests you now? Just pick something and start on it. It may not really interest you anymore, but you'll at least find out if it does or not. And if it doesn't, great. Chalk that up into, hey, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm going to go try this thing out. Who knows? Maybe something we've said in here will spark your interest, and you'll be like, what is this Anunnaki?
Look up the Book of Enoch, look up the Anunnaki, look up Zechariah Sitchin. Billy Carson talks about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Man, you go down the rabbit hole of the Emerald Tablets. I've got a copy of the D'Oreal translation on my table over here. So
I got the Billy Carson.
I really like it. He ties it to Jesus a lot. So
he talks about Jesus, how when he's in the Bible till he's like 12, and then he disappears and he comes back when he's 30, and how he talks about how he traveled the world and learned from Buddhism and learned all this stuff.
Man, I'm telling you, he went to Egypt and then he went to Tibet.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Fucking A, right? It
does. And that's why nobody could write anything about it. Doesn't that help the cause of the story? Like don't you have concerns that the most important person of this particular religion just disappears from being a child and then he's a man?
Paul Wallace, actually, he's got like a 5 parts, each section is about an hour and a half series on YouTube about Jesus' life and travels through India. And the people in Kashmir believe that they have the tomb of the prophet Isa.
Oh,
Jesus, Yeshua. They say that, and it's an interesting story. Their version is that Jesus didn't actually completely die, but he looked so dead due to, basically, not giving the whole story away, but Joseph of Arimathea came in and nursed Jesus back to health in 3 days using his knowledge and his wealth. He then escapes. Mary gets on a ship and heads west out into the sea and over around into Europe. But Jesus then makes his way back to where he initially learned a lot of everything about Buddhism, and ends back up in Kashmir where he's a teacher. His name is Isa. That was what they called him, Prophet Isa. And so you can go there today. You're not allowed to in. The building is, very much guarded. But there are these, it's not a tomb marker, but there is a rock that has been carved with indentions of footprints where he is said to be buried, and he's buried east-west, which would have been in the traditions of the Jews at that time, not north-south, which is in the tradition of the people from Kashmir at that time. He's buried east-west, and on both feet in this carving, there is a significant, obvious indention of where the nails should have been. And it's not like they're in the same spot on both feet. If you were to put your feet over one another and then drive a nail through them and then pull that apart, those holes match up to what this, it's just like, who's going to go through that much trouble 2,000 years ago to create the greatest hoax ever known?
It wouldn't. That's compelling. I forgot to. All right, what am I supposed to read? Because I got to do it now. I'm gonna be up late tonight.
Paul Wallace.
Paul Wallace. Okay.
The book is, I think the first one is Echoes of Eden is the first book. But if you just look up Paul Wallace, you'll find it. I said the story to you earlier. Chariots of the Gods was Von Daniken. So he's like he studied Von Daniken and is kind of like our generation's Eric Von Daniken.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Got it.
He's got a series on YouTube. I'll find it. I'll just send you the series on YouTube that when you got, this is the kind of shit I don't watch TV.
Me either. I don't
If
even
I'm
watch.
it's going to be something that I want to watch.
Well, send me that link as soon as we get off here, because that's what I'm going to be listening to go to sleep tonight. If I go to sleep now, because I'm pretty pumped up about it.
Now I'm interested.
Well, this was awesome. So I think we need to make one night a week paranormal minus. We don't have to wear the tinfoil hats again unless I find something super tinfoily. I'll don the cap again.
Yeah, it was a bit warm.
Quite toasty. So, all right, I got to go put my people to bed. So you have a great night, my friend. This is a wonderful conversation. Thank you to the 52 people now listening. Again, it means so much to have people to listening to what we have to say. It's something we do for a passion. We're not fucking paid, and if I was paid, that'd be really fucking awesome. But we're not. So we do it because we love to talk about different things, and we love to be here and be part of discussion with you guys. So,
and if you have legit recovery questions, feel free to hit us up. We can tell you what's worked for us. We can give you some advice possibly. And if you have questions about any of this crazy stuff we've been talking about tonight, feel free to hit us up too.
Please. Yeah. This was excellent. Love the brains and humor. Oh, thanks, Ellie. Yeah. So if you want to, my email is thesoberheathen@yahoo.com. I could not afford, because I don't get paid to do this, to keep the Scott at thesoberheathen.com. So it's thesoberheathen@yahoo.com. If you want to send an email, feel free. Adam, do you have one people could use or no?
You can just hit me up on X.
Yeah. Can you DM? Can you DM without being a blue check mark? I've heard different things. No,
yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. So yeah, DM us or shoot me an email. That's what that email's for. So again, thanks for listening, and hope to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Perfect.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.